Hello, and welcome back to Funeral DNA, the podcast series where we analyze the unique components, trends, innovations, and services that make up the funeral industry, or as we call it, Funeral DNA. I'm Mike Davis.
And I'm Ashley Solomon.
And today we have Mike Burnett, a sales rep with Eckels. So Mike, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how long have you been in the funeral industry?
I've been licensed since 1996. I was born and raised in Ottawa and moved to Windsor with my wife in 99, where I live now. She's a funeral director as well, with my two daughters, Mackenzie and Michaela.
And how long have you been with Eckels?
I joined Eckels in the fall of 2018.
Since you've entered the industry, what changes have you seen evolve, either through your wife's involvement with the funeral industry or with your own direct involvement with Eckels?
Well, the obvious answer is the cremation rate has risen dramatically. But the one I'd like to really talk about more is how funerals have become more personalized. They're no longer just the generic, you come in, you take one of two different types of funerals, be it no visitation or with visitation. Now everything is more about the celebration of life and making it the story of that person, as opposed to just being, let's go have a generic visitation, as I said.
So as you'd mentioned, we all have sort of seen that cremation is on the rise. You said that had changed the services and products you supply the funeral home by personalization. Is there any other way that anything else that you sort of want to elaborate on with that? Or
obviously with a growing percentage of cremation, you're going to have a lot more different aspects of the family having more time to be able to look at different choices, whether it's more personalization on the urns, whether it's choosing DNA memorial for some DNA storage, whether they're now thinking of having it at a different place, whether the venue is now not going to be the funeral home and it's going to be at a golf course or a country club or something like that. It's just changed in every aspect of it. And as a funeral director, you have to change along with it. And as representatives of any of the companies that serve in the funeral business, we have to change along with it as well, because we have to be there to not only answer the questions that the funeral directors or the funeral owners have, we have to be able to provide them with the questions really before they know what the questions are.
Obviously, COVID, it's COVID-19 and the pandemic last year, it's affected all businesses and everyone. How has it changed your role as a sales rep then?
Obviously with COVID and living in Ontario with the number of lockdowns that we've had to adapt by making it more of an online system. We do a lot more of emailing, we do a lot more Zoom calls and coaching over the phone, whether it's video or just talking over the phone. We do try to get into locations if and when we are permitted to do so, but it's more of coaching from a distance and giving guidance as the questions filter in by either text, phone call, or email.
I say clearly, it's affected that communication and, how you connect with your clients. That's obvious. Coming from, say, not the sales standpoint, but the Eckels as the supplier standpoint, has COVID affected your supply chains, how you can get products or how fast you can get the products to your clients?
At the beginning of COVID, yes, it did. Obviously, everything was at a standstill. There was a backup on all personal protective equipment throughout the world, and we were obviously affected by it as well. That seems to have slowed down as different manufacturers have come to the plate and started to make different PPE, and we're able to source it in different spots to get it quicker and get it at a reasonable price, so we can still pass it on to the funeral homes or anyone else who needs it at a reasonable price as well. It's still a challenge in our industry. It's still a challenge really in any industry because of the unknown. Not everyone really knows what you have to use and when you have to use it and when you don't have to use some of the things. So it's still, a lot of times it's still a challenging situation because people are having to go through and sort of learn as they progress through it.
So as you briefly mentioned, access to places that you were previously able to go into and places you were able to network and meet people, those have not really been an option for the past year. Have you been attending any of the virtual trade shows or any of those that have been put on by organizations? And have you found much success with those?
I've been to a few of the virtual trade shows. My last in-person trade show was last February, so it was February of 2020, and I was down in South Carolina. Since then, everything has been shut down. But when the advent of the virtual trade show came to fruition, it was something that I was very leery about. But once I sat through my first one and a few others after that, I've come to realize that everyone else is in the same boat, but they still seek knowledge. And they want to ask the questions to the people that would know the answers. So it's still a very necessary thing for suppliers as well as the actual consumers to be involved in these, because just because we're staggering through the COVID-19 situation doesn't mean that we have to put everything that we learn on hold. We still have to move forward and be able to serve the families the best way we can. And we can only do that by moving together all together.
So, and you touched on it, you were, bringing in PPE and other things. For those who aren't exactly sure what Eckels does supply, here I was thinking, urns, caskets, embalming fluid, but you're bringing up PPE and that type of stuff. So, what sort of range do your products cover then for the funeral home?
Eckels has thousands and thousands of different products. We offer, obviously, the most common ones is the fluid that we manufacture in Guelph, the urns that we supply. But then once we get past that, then it's all the sundry supplies that funeral homes and or cemeteries need, whether it's greens and lowering devices for cemeteries, right up to full retorts for crematoriums. We managed to have something for everyone, and we managed to be able to tap into all parts of the industry. So we're relevant to anyone in the death care industry, no matter what they are looking for. And if we don't seem to have it today, we will source it and get it for you for tomorrow, because we don't ever want to be able to leave you hanging or ever want to say no to a potential client.
So clearly, COVID had stopped the way you could get to people, a little bit of the supply chains and shipping stuff. But it really has changed the funeral industry, at least in the last year. We see, more Zoom arrangements, more people going to the internet to being able to do this. What have you noticed? Is there any new products that have launched or new services that have come out, or at least really caught on in the last year or so? And do you think that they're here to stay, or are they just sort of here for now while COVID's around?
I think anything that really comes out during the COVID situation is really going to be here to stay, because a lot of it is built around convenience. And that's what today's society really wants, is more of a convenience factor, not to take away from the traditional funeral homes or the traditional funerals themselves. We can still have those, and that's not a problem. It's just, how do we get to that point? And that point is, if a family wants to stay at home and do the arrangements online, then that's what we should be able to comply with for them. If a family wants to have a service that's also being Zoomed around the world, that's something that we need to be able to provide for them. And these are all things that were really coming along at the same time just before COVID, but now this has forced everybody's hand to just move forward that much quicker. So in a way, it's really pushed the funeral industry and the death care industry as a whole a little bit more into the 21st century, where I think it was stuck a little bit in the past beforehand. So because of that, funeral directors around North America especially have been able to react in a very positive way, and they've taken everything that's come in with all the news, like I say, the new Zoom visitations and the Zoom funerals, and being able to sign the guest book online, and everything can be done virtually, or you can still come in small groups. They've adapted, and because of that, I think that the families that they serve now trust them even more, because they've been able to do everything in a safe manner and a very progressive manner. So no matter what the family's beliefs are, they know now that they can come to the funeral home and they're going to get it, whether they're the most traditional family or the most future thinking family. Everything is now covered under one roof. So I think funeral service should really be applauded for everything they've done during this COVID situation to maintain a safe atmosphere, no matter where they were, but at the same time to come forward and be really the leaders in the industry. And yes, they may have been asked a few times by some families, can you do this? Can you do that? But once that was done, it was then offered to everybody. And now it's just the new norm for the whole industry.
All right, so if a funeral home, if they're interested in your services, what would be the best way that they could reach out to you or reach out to Eckels to bring in one of the reps?
Well, obviously, the easiest way is just to go to the website at www.eckelsandcompany.com, and that's ECKELS and company.com. Once you go there, you can see all of the products that we have. All of our catalogs are clearly listed on there. You can flip through them. You can then see whoever the person is that should be serving you in the area that you are in, and you can contact them directly through the website, or you can phone the office from the website phone number, and they'll be able to put you in touch with who you need to talk to. Or if it's just simply you wanted to talk to someone to place an order, the home office is able to do that as well. And we have the two offices. We have our Canadian headquarters in Guelph, and we have our American headquarters in Livonia, Michigan.
So are you guys pretty much coast to coast then in both the countries?
Yeah, we service, actually, we're international. We service all over the world. We are sending fluid and urns and everything like that daily to as far away as New Zealand, Australia, Japan. So it doesn't matter where you're from. You're going to find a use for the Eckels products, and we're going to be able to serve you.
Okay, well, perfect. Thank you very much for your time today, Mike. We really appreciate you coming in here and giving us some insights as a supplier to the funeral industry. Once again, for the listeners at home, we want to thank you for tuning in. This was Funeral DNA, the podcast where we analyze the unique components, trends, innovations, and services that make up the funeral industry. Stay tuned next week. We'll have a new guest. Thank you.
Thank you.